so realistic. Oh my goodness. So yesterday I prepared my seitan chicken and poached it in that broth. And it's been sitting in my fridge overnight for all the flavors to infuse and for the vegan chicken to rest and get the texture that we're looking for. So now all I need to do is strain off that liquid because we're going to reuse that broth. We can take out our chicken. Now let's get that chicken out of the cheesecloth. And you can reuse this cheesecloth, I just put it in the washing machine. And it is important that we do that poaching step for not only the texture, but it allows the seitan to be cooked all the way through. And you can see that yuba skin has really stuck to the seitan too. Now I've got a big cast iron pan here and I'm going to be using this to roast my seitan. So to this we're going to be adding some extra virgin olive oil. And I have a cup of white wine, but you could also just use the broth, the vegetable broth. I'm also going to be adding 1 cup of our broth as well. Got a couple of sprigs of rosemary that I'm going to put underneath. And then we're going to lay our vegan chicken on top. And we've got some onions going in. I only had these little ones, so I'm just going to be using these instead of a large one. And I'm just going to cut them in half. And I have a whole bulb of garlic. Yes, we're going to use another one, and I'm going to cut this in half. And pop that in there too. Some salt and pepper. And I'm going to baste my vegan chicken also. I'm going to pour over some of that broth on top too. Okay, so I have my oven preheated at 200 degrees Celsius. We're going to pop this in for 10 minutes and then reduce the heat down to 180 degrees Celsius, convection, and bake it for another hour and 20 minutes. So let's get this going in. We're going to check it throughout its baking and baste it a few times during the baking process, just to make sure that that skin stays nice and crisp and everything's nice and moist and yeah, delicious. Okay, let's get this in. While our chicken is in the oven roasting, let's get cracking onto our crispy smashed potatoes. So I got these really cute little mini potatoes at the grocery store. If you can get kind of smallish ones, I think the small ones are the best. These are really tiny, but even like a little bit bigger is fine as well. If not, you can just get some larger potatoes and sort of just cut them up a little bit. So I've got a bit of a mix in there. And I've got here in my saucepan, and we want to cover it with plenty of water. Water's in. Now I'm going to be adding some bicarb soda, and I find that this gives them extra crunchy, extra crispy. And I'm putting in about, I don't know, maybe like a tablespoon. So while they are cooking to fork tender, I am going to chop up some fresh herbs. I'm using rosemary today, but thyme would be lovely, or you can use sage or your favorite fresh herbs. I just think there's something about rosemary and potatoes. It just goes so well together. It's one of my favorite combinations. And these smashed potatoes are one of my favorites. They're not only delicious with this roast chicken, they also work perfectly with tzatziki sauce as well. That's our oven. We're going to go check it now and turn down the temperature. Okay, these guys are ready, so I'm going to just strain them off. I like to put them in a bowl and dress them with some of our olive oil, our rosemary, give it a good toss, and I have some nice flaky sea salt as well. And onto our tray. Now you want to smash them down. You can use a glass if you have like a flat bottom glass. Yeah, so you can use like a flat bottom glass or something like this, like to push them down. I actually have this hamburger maker, but it's nice and flat on the bottom, so I'm going to use that to smush down our potatoes. Just make sure that they're nicely spaced out. I'm going to brush a little bit of oil onto it just to help it stop sticking. Oh yeah, that's better. And don't worry if they fall apart a little bit. You can just push them back together, and in the oven they're going to stick back together. Now, once they're all smashed down and spaced out, I like to go over with a little bit more olive oil. Just brush that over the top. If you would like, you can add a little bit more of your herbs and a little more salt. So now you want to set that aside until they're ready to bake. You want to essentially put them into your oven 40 minutes before your vegan chicken is ready. So let's put this aside until it's ready to bake. This miso and roasted garlic gravy is one of my favorite gravies for a vegan roast or a Sunday roast. So let's get into making it. So I've gone ahead and measured out my stock that I'll be using, or our broth. And this is the reserve broth from making our seitan chicken. So I've heated that up in the microwave. It's nice and hot. And to that, we're going to be adding our shiro miso. Now this is it's also known as white miso. It has packed full of umami, and it is essentially like a fermented soybean. The white variety, or the shiro miso, it's kind of a little sweeter, but it's absolutely delicious and it works so well in this gravy. So I'm just going to mix that into our hot broth so we can kind of create a lovely flavor infusion. Now here is my roasted garlic. Now I used some roasted garlic that was in with my chicken seitan, but you could also do it separately. It's an entire bulb of garlic. And I just want to pass it through a sieve just to get it nice and fine. So I'm just going to squeeze them out. It's cooled down now, so it's easier to handle. And I just love the combination of the flavor from the roasted garlic and the miso together. It goes so well together. So you just want to smush it through. You can see it's very, very soft. So we have our beautiful paste. I'm just going to mix it in with that broth and put it all together. Traditionally, a gravy is made with what's called a roux. So a roux is essentially just butter and flour cooked together until it becomes like a golden sand color. Now I'm going to be also using this same method to create this gravy today. So instead of butter, I'm using some plant-based alternative, so margarine. If you've taken some of the other classes with us, you may be familiar with butter aroma. So if you do have this in your kitchen or you would like to try it, you can add a little bit of that too, just to give it a nice buttery flavor. So we're just melting down that vegan butter. It's almost melted now, so I'm going to add my flour, and I'm just using an all-purpose flour. And we want to cook the starches in the flour. So the roux is going to act as our thickening agent for our gravy. You'll start to see the texture of that butter and flour changing. Once that foaminess has stopped, it's going to start changing color slightly. We just want it until it's just starting to go sort of like a golden color. We don't want it too dark. So I'm happy with that. So now we're going to slowly start adding our hot broth. Just a little bit at a time, and we can turn that temperature down. And we want to add this a little bit at a time so we don't get lumps. At this stage, you can also switch to a whisk if you find that easier. Now you just want to bring it to a simmer and cook it until it's thickened. And season to taste with some pepper. You probably won't need salt because the miso is quite salty. Okay, I'm happy with this thickness. Let's just give it one last taste. Oops. Yep, that's perfect. So you just want to transfer that into a heat safe jug, or like we call them like a gravy boat. I have this little saucepan with a lip which will work quite well. And I'm just going to cover this with some foil just so it doesn't create a skin. And now it's all ready for our Sunday roast. So our vegan roast chicken has come out of the oven and it's got this beautiful crispy skin on the outside. Doesn't it look amazing? I'm just letting it sit for a few minutes, but I am going to plate up a dish with the potatoes, which are just finishing up now. And I have some broccoli, which I have blanched for a couple of minutes in some boiling water and then shocked it in ice water. So you can do a whole bunch of these ahead of time. And then when it comes to service, you can just toss them in a little bit of oil, salt and pepper. So that's what I'm gonna do now. So I have my saucepan here getting nice and hot, and just a little bit of our extra virgin olive oil. We just want to heat that through and get a little bit of color on it. So while that's heating up, let's take out our chicken. So let's carve into it. Take a look. Oh wow, it looks very juicy. Got those crispy layers of the Yuba skin. So that's our potatoes. I'm gonna go ahead and grab those now. Wow, look at those. They're so crispy. All right, I think that's plenty. Let's have a try at some of this crispy chicken skin. Wow. It's so realistic. Oh my goodness. It's really savory, but it's crunchy, but it still has like a chew to it as well. I've just kept that gravy nice and hot in the oven. And I've got a small little jug. I thought it'd be kind of cute just to serve it as a single serving. So everyone can pour over their own gravy.